Hello and welcome to the live stream. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. Normally I have a specific topic that I'm going to cover, but today is going to be a general Q&A about all things studio gear, content creation, and all the things I talk about on the channel. So feel free to drop any questions into the chat. I have got a bit of a backlog of questions as well that have come in from various different sources. So that's where part of the reason for this is for me to address a lot of these outstanding questions as well. So yeah, feel free to drop anything in the chat if you have got any questions that you want to get answered. I will just start with one that just came across my desk, as it were, just the other day, which was about Stream Decks. And actually, the question was, can you connect multiple Stream Deck pedals into a computer? And the answer is yes. Actually, you can connect. I don't know what the technical limit is. It's probably more like a USB traffic limit rather than an actual Stream Deck limit itself, because each Stream Deck is sort of individually addressable, so you can actually have multiple Stream Decks. I'll just quickly show you what I've got on my computer. So at the moment, technically on my desk, I've got 3 Stream Decks. I've got 2 Stream Deck XLs, a Stream Deck Plus, and on the floor, I've got 2 Stream Deck pedals. So yes, you can certainly connect multiple Stream Decks. And the way that this works is if I just go into my Stream Deck and I'll just share this part of the screen here. So in the Stream Deck app, you've got this little drop down here, so where this says XL2, but you can see different Stream Decks that I've got connected. So 2 pedals, the Stream Deck Plus, Stream Deck Mobile as well. That's a great solution, by the way, because Stream Deck Mobile allows you to technically connect the Stream Deck Mobile app to 2 separate computers. So if ever you have got a situation where you've got 2 computers and you want to control them both from a single device, then the Stream Deck mobile app, you can link it to. Actually, the way that it works is on the iPad. When you open an app, you know how you can open 2 apps at the same time. Well, you can actually basically open a second instance of the Stream Deck app and have them side by side, sort of tiled. So one controlling one computer and one controlling the other. But anyway, I digress slightly. So yeah, here is where you can select your devices. I have actually got another Stream Deck Plus that I use for something else, but anyway, it's not on my desk. It would get a little bit too cluttered with 4 of them on the desk. But the other thing to note about this is, as well as being able to control the different profiles that you're in, one of the most popular videos on my channel is all about profiles on Stream Deck. But yeah, having a different profile. So here I'm my Take One Tech recording profile, but I've got profiles set up for all kinds of different other things on here. And one of the things, if you've only got one Stream Deck, one thing I can recommend is that you have some sort of home profile. Now, I haven't actually used my home profile on here for ages because I do it slightly differently now. But if you switch into, let's see if this is even going to do anything. Let me see if I go into, I've probably done a demo about this at some point. I'll tell you why it is. It's because I'm in the wrong Stream Deck. Let me come back to this one. I will switch to my home profile. This is what I used to do. I used to have a big home button on my Stream Deck, and when I pressed that, it would take me back to this. And this then was basically linking out to all of my other different profiles. So clicking on one of these would take me to my my calculator profile, my Keynote profile, all of these other different use cases. In fact, just to show you that, if I click on this one here, this Keynote button, it's going to take me to my Keynote profile, and then you can see the home button there takes me back to this one here. Now, actually, I don't use this now because what I've done is I've got my Stream Deck Plus is the way that I'm now sort of navigating. So if we come over to my Stream Deck Plus, in fact, let me just switch back. If I go to my Stream Deck Plus, this one, these buttons here, and I can swipe to go to another page. These buttons here, whoops a daisy, I've just pressed the play button. Let me not do that. Play the WWDC keynote. Here you can see I've got these buttons here on the Stream Deck Plus, and these are what I use to switch profiles on my other devices. And this is the point that I want to just illustrate, is that if I go back over to here, go to this last page, there is an option on Stream Deck here, if you go into the navigation, to switch profile. So ordinarily, if you're creating yourself a home profile and you want to switch back and forth between different profiles on Stream Deck, then you can see down here, you just select new profile, select the profile you want, and then like clicking on this one now would switch us to that recording profile. But when you've got multiple Stream Decks, what you can do though is you can actually, rather than change it on the current device, you can select any of your other Stream Decks. So I could change the profile on my pedal with my regular Stream Deck. And so here you can see I've got different profiles set up on my pedals. And so I could choose to change to my ChatGPT pedal profile. Yes, I have one of those. And then you can, if I press the button now on this Stream Deck here, which is this one on my desk, just over here, then that would change what's going on my foot pedals. Now, when you have got multiple Stream Decks, then what you can also do is, you know, I use the Stream Deck Plus is for sort of changing profile, and I use the dials for, you know, audio adjustments and things like that. But all of the other 4 Stream Decks, the 2 XLs and the pedals, I want them to all change at the same time depending on what I'm doing. So what you can do then is in here, if you create a multi-action, that thing that we've just done there to switch profile, we can basically just add these in here. And as I've just shown you here, we can go to the current device where we could change that to XL1. I could come in here and change this to XL2 device, which is, I'm doing it on the XL2. I should be doing this on the Plus. Let me let me just do it on the Plus to show you. Here, and then we can go to, say, pedal left and pedal right. So now what I could do is go through and select the actual profile for that. So, you know, let's say it was live streaming or something. I've got a live streaming profile for various different things. So you get the idea though, setting up a multi-action, I can press that and it's just going to change the profiles on all of my other Stream Decks. So that was a bit of a long answer to the question, can you use 2 Stream Deck pedals with one computer? The answer is yes. The other one that I get actually quite often is about controlling another computer with the Stream Deck that you've got on your desk. Now, I've just mentioned that you can do it with the Stream Deck mobile app, but you might like the tactile nature of regular Stream Decks as opposed to just the screen on the iPad. There isn't a way natively that if you've got 2 computers networked, for example, that you can press a button on the Stream Deck on computer A and it triggers something on computer B. But as always with automation and these things, Keyboard Maestro comes to the rescue. If you've got Keyboard Maestro on both computers, and this is, by the way, this is a Mac app, and there may be a way to do this on PCs that I'm not aware of, but on the Mac, you can have Keyboard Maestro on multiple computers, and then you can trigger things on one computer from Keyboard Maestro on another. It's got this sort of web whatever the word is, protocol to pass things through from one to the other. So yeah, technically you could do that, set it up with Keyboard Maestro, but it's not native on the Stream Deck that you can control one computer with another. But as I say, mobile app would be the easiest solution for that. Let me just check in with the chat. I've got quite a few questions here already, but I'll just go through and see if there are any in the chat. First of all, hey Parker, great to see you here, and George, thank you for stopping by, and Sean also. Let's see this one. So can you recommend a USB hub for my MacBook Pro? I want to connect my DSLR, USB mic, and the Elgato prompter. Also, which device absolutely has to be connected directly into the laptop? That is a really interesting question, especially the last part about which has to be connected directly into the laptop, because every manufacturer says you need to plug our device directly into the laptop, into the computer, whichever that is, and you also need to use the cable that is supplied with it. And the prompter, in particular, is one that I've seen all the content creators, or most of them that have made videos about the prompter, have reiterated that. Whereas people kind of know that with the Stream Decks and things like that, although the manufacturers say they've got to be plugged in directly into the computer, really part of the reason they're doing that is just to cover themselves, I guess. That if you're using some sort of dodgy hub and the thing doesn't work, and you know, some other cable. One of the problems with cables is you can pick up a cable and yeah, it's got a USB-C socket on the end of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a data cable. It doesn't necessarily mean it can, you know, transfer whatever needs to be transferred. So that's why manufacturers always say plug it directly into the computer, use the cable that came with it, so they're not dealing with a load of problems of, you know, people on support saying, oh, your thing isn't working. It's like, well, how have you got it connected? Oh, well, some cheap cable that I had lying around and it's plugged into an unpowered hub. So that is where they come from. But the funny thing is, as I say, with the prompter in particular, people have been saying, oh yeah, you must plug it into your computer. Well, I can tell you that I have a prompter over here. So this is the Elgato prompter. It is plugged in to a dock, and it is plugged in over a 5-meter extension cable. So a non-standard one. So the thing to look for though is that the cable can carry the data that you're requiring. So I've got a 20 gigabits per second cable. Let me just go and I'll grab the cable that I'm actually using for this. And this is also not going directly into the computer. It's going into my hub. So let me just paste this cable in first of all. You might not need this. This is literally a 5-meter cable, but I'll just drop it in anyway. 5-meter, 20 gigabits per second cable. So this is the actual cable that I'm using. That looks like a bit of a long link. Let me try and see if I can get you a shorter link than that. I might even go over. That's much better. I was going to give you the direct link that I'd copied, but right, that one. So there, that link that I've just dropped in is for the cable. And by the way, I'll show you this cable. So this is it's a bit of an unusual brand, Usebeam, but it's a and it's actually a 2-pack. So in my teleprompter, in fact, I've got this. There's basically 3 cables. Just to digress slightly, there are 3 cables going to this teleprompter, and I've got it just on a rolling stand here. And there's 3 5-meter cables. So there is one of these 200 gigabits per second going to the teleprompter. There is another one that is going to a capture card. So I've got a capture card mounted on the back of it there. And then I've just got a really short HDMI that's going into my Sony ZV-1 inside this. But the capture card I've just mounted directly onto the back there. And then I've got another one of those 20 gigabits per second USB-C cables going out of the back of my capture card to my computer as well. And then I've got another 5-meter, which is USB to micro USB, which is power for the ZV-1. So basically I've got a 5-meter reach on my rolling rig there for my teleprompter. But like, as I say, the teleprompter is one of these ones that everyone said, yeah, it really must be plugged into the computer. Well, case in point, it does not, because I have not got it plugged into there. Now, in terms of what that's going into, this is the hub that I personally use. Let me just grab this link now. It's the CalDigit Element Hub. It's worth mentioning the difference between hubs and docks as well. But let me just grab this and drop this link in. Element Hub. There we go. And this is the thing you want to look for with hubs and docks is basically the power that they can supply. So this one has got 3 USB-C sockets on one side, or Thunderbolt, and then the power in there. And then it's also got 4 USB Type A, USB 3 sockets on the other side there. And this is what I've got plugged into that is 2 channels of my RodeCaster. In the 2 sockets for my RodeCaster are plugged into 2 of those USB-Cs there. I've got my prompter plugged into this one. I've got 3 Stream Decks on my desktop plugged into these 3 here, and then I've got something else plugged into this. I can't remember. But what I'm saying is, you know, these are really, you would think that these are really sort of data hungry things. I mean, it's the core components of my desktop are all going through this one device. You know, as I say, my RodeCaster 1 and 2, my prompter, and then the Stream Decks are all plugged into it as well. And then just with that one Thunderbolt 4 cable going into my computer, that's how I'm getting all of these things in. So I highly recommend this. I've never had any problem with it whatsoever. I did have a coaching client actually who had some issues with CalDigit Thunderbolt. So the CalDigit TS4 Thunderbolt dock. was saying that the plugging cam links into it wasn't working. However, I've worked with lots of other clients where it has, so I don't know if anyone else has encountered that. We haven't quite got to the bottom of why that is. I know that when the TS4 first came out, and I should probably show you what I'm talking about, there was some issues then, but it seems to have been resolved now. So I've worked with a number of people where this is the setup. It's the if you want to get multiple things in that are not just USB peripherals. So let me step back a minute. The difference between a hub and a dock. A hub is going to be where you're connecting multiple of the same types of connection. So, for example, the CalDigit Thunderbolt hub is a hub because you've got one Thunderbolt that's going into the computer, and then you've got these other connections that are all basically, USB data type connections. So that is in contrast. So that's a hub. So in contrast, then a dock is something like this. This would be the dock that I could recommend, the CalDigit TS4. And the difference between a hub and a dock is basically where you've got one plug that you're plugging into your computer, but then it docks with all of your peripherals. And that might well be not just USB peripherals, but if we take a look at this one, for example, then we've got, an SD card reader on the front. We've got audio in as well in the form of a headphone socket. We've got data as well, but then on the back, we've also got Ethernet. We've also got more audio going in there, and then also DisplayPort and, HDMI and things like that you might have on these things as well. So that's the difference between a hub and a dock. And some people, I think, jump into getting a dock because they think that that's what they want. They think that that's what they need. People talk about this one in particular. I'll just drop a link to this in the CalDigit TS4. CalDigit TS4 dock. Because this is a popular one. But actually, if you're not going to be connecting, like if you don't need that extra connection for a monitor or audio in or these sorts of things, then actually it might not be a dock that you need. It might just be a hub. And I think hubs get a bit of a bad rap because people think of those as potentially just those little dongles that hang off your computer that maybe haven't got power, that you're just going to plug directly in a few USBs that go into another USB socket. But actually a hub can be a thing as well, a powered hub. So anyway, just to mention that point. Why did I get talking about that? I think I digressed from what I was talking about there, but anyway, that's going to happen. So to answer your question, to do what you're wanting to do, connect your DSLR, USB mic, and the prompter, it would be that CalDigit Element Hub. And also, technically, I don't believe anything absolutely has to be connected into your laptop because we've got so few sockets these days that you can plug them into a dock or into a hub. One thing to mention: if you have got Thunderbolt hubs or docks, they can be daisy chained, as in, go from the computer into one and then from that into another one. One thing to just be aware of with that is if, let's say, you've got a Thunderbolt 4 hub and a Thunderbolt 3 hub, then you'd want to make sure that the highest number is the first one in the chain from the computer. So you wouldn't plug your computer into a Thunderbolt 3 hub and then plug that into a Thunderbolt 4 hub, because you're basically then limiting the Thunderbolt 4 down to that Thunderbolt 3 before it goes into the computer. So just make sure you've got them sort of chained in the correct order there. Incidentally, one of the other things that's related to docks, since we're talking about it, I know it's not your specific question, but since we are talking about it, I've got 5 monitors connected. So there's my main monitor that I do all my work on. Down here, I've got my MacBook screen. Up here, I've got my teleprompter. This is kind of like my AV monitor where all of my Ecamm Live stuff is. And then I've actually got another one which is sort of over here. So that tends to have my email and calendar on. So I've got 5 monitors connected. And this is another question that comes up, is how am I connecting so many monitors when technically, depending on what Mac you've got, there's a limit on the number of screens you can have. And then I suppose actually there is another one now, which is this one, the Elgato Prompter. But anyway, the thing with that is I'm using a Wavelink dock, and this has you want to look for something. I'll find I'll show you the logo. It needs to have display link technology built into it. So and display link basically it's actually the same software that Elgato use to be able to make sure that the prompter can run on your computer. So if you have installed your Elgato prompter software, you'll know that it prompts you to go and install the Display Link Manager. So Display Link is not an Elgato thing. It is a thing that has, in fact, I'm not sure which company actually created Display Link, but it is made by some other company. But basically, they've licensed this technology out to people like Elgato and Wavelink, and you want to look for that Display Link logo. So you can see there, it's usually on the device if you're getting a dock. But what that means is it runs as a little menu bar item, and then that allows you to connect multiple monitors through the Display Link software and then into the Mac. So this is the dock that I've got that gives me basically 2 extra screens. So I've got 3 that are connected on the Mac. Well, no, let me rephrase that. I've got the Mac screen, I've got 2 additional screens, and then I've got like plugged directly into the Mac, or at least into a hub. And then I've got this one, which gives me those additional screens. So that would be, check out the Wavelink. I found those to be really useful. What else have I got plugged into here? I think this is also where I've got a couple of cam links plugged into this as well. So that's how I'm bringing in extra cameras. But this is the Wavelink dock with Display Link. So, and that is Display Link, by the way, not Display Port. So Display Port is a type of connection. So you can see there those 2 connections. You've got HDMI and Display Port. Display Port is a connector type. Display Link, though, is this thing that you'll see the logo for there, that Display Link logo. And as I say, it's usually indicated on the device itself. So yeah, again, one more digression, but let me come back to the questions. Let's see. Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you found the course useful. Since you mentioned the Ecamm Live Masterclass, there is a complete update. Let me see. It was supposed to come out on the 1st of May. This month has been somewhat trifling, to say the least, since going away on holiday at the beginning of May. So it's still not out yet, but there will be a complete update coming out imminently. And as somebody who's got the existing masterclass, you'll get immediate access to that. But also, as somebody who's bought the existing masterclass, because the new Ecamm masterclass is going to be completely free, then I have got a special offer for all those who signed up to the original to give access to my other courses and things. But I'll be sending that out in due course, hopefully within the next week or so. But yeah, I'm glad you found that useful. Hey Keely, great to see you here. Oh, you're just linking to my stuff. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Hey Jesse, great to see you. I've got 2 Stream Deck pedals, courtesy of a gas attack. The gas is real. That's why I made this mug. I should be pimping my own merch, really, but there you go. I still haven't figured out what to use them for everyday office productivity. Any suggestions? I use my Stream Deck pedals for all kinds of things. Like let's just stick to to start with, rather, one of the great use cases. In fact, I recommended this. I gave somebody else gas just the other day on a coaching call because they were recording their videos. Now, my hands are always out of shot on these videos because then I'm playing my organ down here, as it were. That sounded really bad. I was thinking like of an organ pianist where they've got all these dials and things like that. But yeah, I don't have my hands in shot because I'm playing my organ. Let me rephrase that. I don't have my hands in shot because then I can control all of these things on my desk here. But they sort of have a more wider shot, and so they want to deliver their content and people can see their hands, but then they didn't want it to be that when they get to the end of every video, they're sort of reaching out to press the end button, and then they were having to edit that out. So just simply from a recording point of view, if using Ecamm or whatever you're using, then having the Stream Deck pedals to do things like start the recording, end the recording, take comments down off screen and things like that, then they're really useful for that, because obviously you can have that on your Stream Deck. And I always recommend having a level of muscle memory so that, like I know that I don't need to look down at the Stream Deck to know and just be able to feel that I want to press this button to switch to that camera. And if I'm just going to reach down to this button down here, that's going to switch back to my main camera. So you get that muscle memory, but sometimes just having your hands free and being able to do it with the pedals is really useful as well. In Zoom meetings, they can be really useful for things as well. So, if you're maybe taking notes or you're doing other things whilst you're in the meeting, then having a pedal to press for things like if I'm in a group meeting where it's not me hosting it, then I'll have the space bar is spacebar to unmute in Zoom temporarily. So if you just want to say something, hold the spacebar down and then you can speak and then take it off again and you'll unmute. So having something like that on a pedal so that if you've got something to chip into the conversation, you can just press that with your pedal, or maybe even the permanent unmute or mute or whatever. Maybe you need to have one to toggle the camera on and off. Then things like that in meetings can be really useful as well. Aside from that, though, other use cases in a productivity point of view, I don't really do editing, as you know, but I do edit my podcast, which I haven't recorded for months now. But this was one of the things that I found was a really good use for it was when you're doing things where you're editing a timeline or whatever, then having certain actions like the slice and various other different tools, having things like that on the pedals was useful because then you've got one hand on the keyboard, one hand on the mouse, maybe on the timeline, or maybe you're scrubbing along the timeline with some other device. So having things like that. There are other things like I will use the Stream Deck pedal where I'll just program something for something that I just need to do as a sort of like one-off task almost. Not one-off, but like multiple, a one-session task that is repetitive. So for example, let's say I'm doing something in an Excel worksheet and I find that I'm just going through and editing something in an Excel sheet where I just have to go sort of basically down to the next cell and then across, or edit the cell and then hit return and then go down one cell or something like that, where I'm doing these repetitive movements. I'll often just actually program that in as a multi-action onto the Stream Deck pedal. And then basically I'm just doing like my little edit in Excel, pressing the Stream Deck pedal. It's doing what it's got to do to go to the next field or whatever. So I'll use it for things like that as well. So it's a case of really noticing, as with all of these automation things, anything that you're doing repetitively that you could potentially have the Stream Deck do. And with the pedal, it's the same as the regular Stream Deck. And where it comes into this is if you are using anything with keyboard shortcuts. Obviously, often what you're finding with keyboard shortcuts is you might well have something like this, where you're basically stretching across from, you're holding modify keys down, pressing over here, depending on the keyboard shortcut, which is fine if you've got both hands on the keyboard. But if you're doing something in an application where you've got one hand on the mouse, sometimes the keyboard shortcuts aren't always just easily to hand because of that. So in that case, assigning those to either a Stream Deck button or a Stream Deck pedal is also a good use case for them as well. So yeah, again, there's really no end of uses. It's a case of just figuring out what the specific ones are for you. But yeah, anything where you've got your hands free you haven't got your hands on the keyboard is going to be a good one for those. Let's see where we are. So I've asked this question before, but was misconstrued. Is there a deck that is like RodeCaster buttons that have sound files on board? Let's see. So something that's basically an external device like the RodeCaster that has sound files, not triggered files on a computer. I think, is that what you mean? You mean like an external device, just where you hit a button? There is one. I can't think of the name of it now. There is a soundboard. There is definitely something like that. I can't just think of the name of it now. I will find it for you. Something like this. Of course, it's it's taking me somewhere else. It's taking me to the Thailand online shopping thing. What's it called? and it's all in Thai as well. I will try and find one another way. Just a second. Bear with me a second. There's also, you could consider a, there's plenty of things like that on the iPad. I've just lost this one now. Hang on. I can't remember what it's called, and I can't find it in English. But there's this thing. It looks basically similar. You have to tell me if this is even what you're talking about. But it looks similar to the RodeCaster buttons that you've got, but you can assign sounds to them. So there's a few things like this MIDI pad beat maker. That's something different actually, but. Yeah, there are a few of these things, if that's even what you mean. In fact, I should probably just go down to see the comments to see if if that is what you're talking about. Yeah, there are devices that are basically just a hardware soundpad type device to trigger those sorts of things. And just for context, that particular one, which is not a great link because, as I say, it's in Thai, but that's like about $50 or something like that. That particular one there, but there is all kinds of different ranges. But I can't recommend one specifically because I haven't used them myself, so I wouldn't be able to say, oh yeah, that's definitely the one to get. Let me know if that's right or not. Jesse, I use my Stream Deck Plus buttons mainly for changing profiles. Is it very helpful? Yeah, that's exactly what I do. So the real thing for the Stream Deck Plus for me is that is the dials. So I use the dials for adjusting things like levels in Ecamm and all of that kind of stuff. And so because you've got so few buttons on the Stream Deck Plus, with only there's basically 32 keys on the Stream Deck XL, but there's only 8 keys on the Stream Deck Plus. So if you were to have, I would. People ask as well, which one should I get if I'm going to just get one? And I would always say get the Stream Deck Plus, unless the Stream Deck XL, unless you know that you really need those dials. If you're only going to get one, but actually the Stream Deck Plus makes a good accompaniment to the Stream Deck XL for exactly what you're talking about there, Jesse, which is and what I showed at the beginning, which was using the Stream Deck Plus to change profiles on the XL, because really 8 keys doesn't seem like that many. And it may seem like a lot. Some people, when they first are thinking and considering about Stream Deck, which is a good thing to mention, is, well, how many things am I going to do? I want to maybe change a couple of scenes in Ecamm, or maybe just use it to control Zoom or something. And so you may well have not you, Jesse, I know that you are fully on board with all of the gas, but others may think like, oh, there's only, I'm only going to need 8 keys or 10 keys or something like that. What you'll find with Stream Deck, though, is once you get it, then there will be a whole host of other use cases for it. But yeah, to answer your question, Jesse, that is exactly what I use. I only use the buttons on the Stream Deck Plus to change profiles on the other multitude of Stream Decks on my desk. There. So Wayne, I could almost do with just reading everything before I start answering the first part. So you're using an iPad doing a live stream and would like a portable deck with more buttons than the Duo has. So yeah, something like, let me see. I'll try and find one of those devices, because there is one that I just can't remember the name of it. But it is it's basically, I don't think it is that one that I mentioned there, that I showed rather, because I've literally just done a search, but it's something that looks very similar to that, with basically multiple buttons on it, and it's a hardware device. It has the sounds stored on it rather than triggering them on the computer. But I'll have to think about that, and I'll drop it. I think you're in the Discord. If you're not in the Discord already, then go ahead and join that, and I'll try and dig it out. And you can join that if you are not already by going to, if I unhide it, takeonetech.io/family. Link is in the chat. And sorry, I've just seen Michael. Thank you, Michael. X keys. I think that is the one that I was thinking about. Well, Michael's there with the answer. X keys. Yeah, that might well have been the one. It isn't actually the one I was thinking about. However, that would do it as well. So yeah, X keys, USB keypad. Now the thing about that is, let me think now. I have heard of X keys. I have looked into that. I think that may be still triggering stuff on the computer though, as opposed to it being a sort of portable thing where where the music, like on the RodeCaster, for example, the audio is stored on the RodeCaster itself. Whereas this is kind of more like a Stream Deck I think, where it is programming things to happen, excuse me, on your computer. Excuse me. There's one here. Look, with that is a very large T-bar sticking up in the middle of it for fading from one thing to another. Yeah, I think that is still triggering stuff on the computer itself, but that is a great one to mention though, because yeah, it is also another fully programmable thing. So let's drop that link in there as well. The X keys, but yeah, there is another one which is, as I say, more like a sound pads, where you install the stuff onto the sound pads. Anyway, I hope that helped some, Wayne. But thanks for dropping that in, Michael, as well. Let's see where we're up to. Oh, thank you, Johnny. I may well have missed you. You may have had to drop out already, but thanks for stopping by. Oh, that's it. Yeah, Bicky, hello. Great to see you as well. Yeah, for the question about hubs before, hubs and docks, OWC, which is Other World Computing. Yeah, all of their stuff's great. I've bought lots of stuff from them before as well. OWC. I tell you what I used to use them for before is when our Macs were previously upgradable in terms of you could take the back off and do all sorts of stuff inside them. Other World Computing I've got some great kits to do stuff like that. So like on my old laptop, for example, where it had a hard drive and then it had a DVD drive or CD tray or whatever it was at the time, I can't remember. Then OWC used to sell these kits where you could basically remove the CD and then replace it with an SSD. And it was the first time I'd had a computer with an SSD when they weren't just kind of the standard, and it was just pretty amazing to install that in my old laptop, however many years ago that was. But it was when SSDs first came out, and it was kind of like this moment where suddenly my computer was lightning fast because it wasn't just spinning a disk. But yeah, that's OWC. I've just dropped the link in. That's a great suggestion, Bicky. All of their stuff is great. They've got enclosures, for like RAID arrays and things like that. But then, yeah, they have got these different docks. The one that I mentioned, the TS4. The Element Hub. There's a series of hubs that are made by OWC, by CalDigit, and some other manufacturers, and basically they're using the same board inside. They've just put it in a different enclosure. So that's another thing. A lot of these manufacturers, they're using the same inside technology. They've just got their own casing around it. But yeah, OWC is another great one. They make some great products. That one's a pretty cool one as well. The USB-C travel dock, a really tiny. Oh, is it that one or is it this one? This one is the one I was thinking of. Yeah, tiny little USB travel dock with a little cable included, and then it can connect your external monitor USB things, and it's got a card reader in as well. That's a pretty cool one. Let's have a look here. Jesse's saying the TS4 is great. So many different sockets, a bit pricey, but if you've got tons of peripherals, it does a cracking job. Loads of charging power too. Yeah, that's the thing with these. And when people are looking at it, this is something people say, it's like, oh, it's a bit pricey. So they are on the costly side. But the thing about it is they've got the power to power everything that you want to power. Yes. Let me just find this. I'll just tell you the price of it. The other thing to consider, though, is the CalDigit TS4. Let's just have a quick look at the price of this. If you look at the TS4, so the CalDigit TS4 is basically $400. Let's ignore the 5 cents. So it's $400. But what you could consider is the CalDigit TS3. Now, it's always this thing of like, oh, the latest and greatest. But really, the defining difference between them is that one is Thunderbolt 4 and one is Thunderbolt 3. So the Thunderbolt 3 one is $240 versus $400. So yeah, you know, we always recommend the latest and greatest, don't we? But actually, in terms of, you know, transfer speed, this one was perfectly fine for everybody until this one came out. You know, this was doing, you know, everything that everybody needed to connect. And if you're connecting a couple of Stream Decks, you've got a monitor plugged in and a card reader and things like that, then this is not giving you a huge amount necessarily more. It might be that, let me think, what's the let's just double check on what the network speed is. Maybe if you're connecting to your network, there might be a difference there. It's gigabit Ethernet, so on this one, it says Thunderbolt 4 compatible. This is the TS3 I'm looking at. It says Thunderbolt 4 compatible. What that means is you can plug it in a Thunderbolt 4 socket and it will work, but it's still Thunderbolt 3 speeds. But yeah, that would be another thing to consider if you are sort of yeah, thinking about budget, as we all should. Then there is still the CalDigit TS3 available, which, as I said, was working perfectly well until the TS4 came out. But this one just says Thunderbolt 4 on it, so that is another option there. So let's see what else we've got in here. Hello there, welcome to the stream. I can't get my SmartPad sounds or music to play through Zoom using my RodeCaster Duo. Right, I tell you exactly why that is. I made a short about this because it happens all the time. What happens is with Zoom, their default thing, I'm just opening Zoom up and getting my Zoom settings open. Zoom does a really great job at cancelling any background noise. Zoom always is working for the masses and giving the best experience to the most people. And most people are using, you know, crappy mics, crappy cameras, and so on. So the default setting that you'll have in Zoom, if I just come down to my Zoom settings, I can almost guarantee this will solve it for you, but that's famous last words, isn't it? In your Zoom settings, in the Zoom audio setting, I was just I didn't read to the end of the sentence. I just wanted to double check that you hadn't said anything about this. But in Zoom, the default setting that you're going to have is this one where it says background noise removal. And it's likely going to be set to auto. So that is the default setting is, I've overridden mine, so I'm always on original sound for musicians, but you can ignore that for the moment. You're likely going to be on this. Background noise removal will be switched on. And the default setting, as I say, is auto, and it automatically adjusts noise suppression. But what it does is it cuts out anything that isn't human voice. If you're playing sound effects or music, it does a really, really great job at helpfully removing that for you. But in your case, you want that to pass through. So there are two things that I would suggest is, first of all, just change this to low. Or medium. Medium is going to still stop things like computer fan noise coming through and pen taps, as it says. So, but it's not going to stop things like music. So if you're playing music or sound effects through your RodeCaster, those will definitely come through. Or if you've just got sort of faint background noise, you could consider putting it on low. But put it on one of those, basically, either low or medium. That will allow the music to come through. But also, if you are using your RodeCaster, and that sort of slightly indicates that you've probably got a reasonable audio setup. So if you have got a good quality microphone and you're in a good sort of fairly treated environment with minimal sort of noise going on, then what you can also consider using is this one here, Original Sound for Musicians. And it's a bit misleading. It says original sound for musicians. They added this in when musicians were saying, yeah, we just want the unfiltered sound going in, like with Zoom not doing any audio processing whatsoever. And so if you're using a RodeCaster and you've got everything set up and you don't want Zoom interfering with that audio, then you can change it to original sound for musicians in here. There are three separate settings then. So high fidelity music mode is the ultimate unfiltered. I'm not sure actually if you uncheck that. I'm not technically sure exactly what it does, but basically high fidelity music mode, I leave that because it's not doing anything then to my audio. The echo cancellation, if you are using the RodeCaster but you've got speakers for the other guests and the guests are coming out of speakers, then you would want to check echo cancellation, because it will still do that thing of removing any audio of the guests that may be coming out of your speakers and then going back into your microphone. The echo cancellation in Zoom is great, actually. So yeah, if you are doing that, then you can use echo cancellation. I don't have that on because I use my in-ear monitors all the time. And then the other one is stereo audio. Now, obviously your microphone is mono anyway, so it doesn't really matter for that. But as you mentioned that you're playing music and sounds through, if you have stereo audio, then it's going to play that music through in stereo for the guests as well. There is a little caveat here. It says, if you look at the little question mark there, it's going to say this is going to take more bandwidth if you broadcast stereo audio. Yeah, it is technically going to take more bandwidth and increase CPU utilization, but compared to the video component, I would say that's rather minimal. So I wouldn't really worry about that if you too much, unless you think you've got an issue with your computer and processor or whatever. So that is my setup. Incidentally, though, when you start a meeting, every time you start a meeting, you have to enable original sound, and it'll appear once you've enabled it in here, like as an option. Then when you start the meeting, you'll see it up in the top left-hand corner. It says original sound for musicians, and it will be off by default, but you can click on it and turn it on. So the reason why, when I set this up, I do actually come in and change this one here first, even though I'm not going to use the background noise removal, I am going to use original sound for musicians. The point is, if ever you forget to turn it on in the actual meeting, then it will fall back on whatever is set here. So by coming in, adjusting this one, and then also doing this one, then even if you forget to toggle it on in the meeting, your music will still come through. There is a way to make original sound for musicians permanently on. And that is what I have done. And let me just find a link to the thing for that. I will drop this in the Discord as well. There is basically a tiny little script thing that you can run, and then it makes it so that the original sound for musicians is always on. I don't just have that to hand though. I'll drop that in the Discord. I'll do it in the studio section of Discord. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that will solve your problem, because yeah, it's a really, really common one, that is that the music isn't coming through. Oh, great to hear, Jesse. I got my sleeves rolled up after the Academy Q&As yesterday. I sorted out my audio at long last after lots of tests and different settings and exercise some gremlins. Well, that is great to hear. So Jesse's in Take One Tech Academy. I should probably just mention what that is. The Take One Tech Academy gives you access to all of my online courses, so the RodeCaster, the Stream Deck course, and all of those kind of things as well. But we also have weekly Q&As as well to get questions answered, not just about tech, by the way. I mean, this is a bit of a tech Q&A, but all in the Academy, everyone in there is using these tools in their business. So there's a lot of focus in there actually on putting these things into practice and using it for business, either in actually growing your online business. Maybe it's an online coaching business, an education business, or any other business where you're using this kind of tech setup. Then we talk about all of that kind of stuff in there as well. So yeah, that's what Jesse is referring to. The session we had just yesterday. We actually do 2 Q&As a week. For me, so I'm in Thailand, I do one at 5 a.m. and one at 5 p.m. on a Thursday. So whatever that works out around the world, it means there's a time that's suitable for most people because it covers off the different time zones. So yeah, and yeah, could still do with some acoustic panels, but it's much better now. So yeah, we had this discussion about. Just to mention, the situation was sometimes in a room you get a lot of kind of reverberation off the walls, and so when you're talking, it's kind of like this. It's not an echo as such, but it is technically, isn't it? It's kind of reverberation off the walls coming back, and you can get this sound like you're in almost like you're in a much bigger room than you are sometimes. And these things that I've got on the wall behind me, I've just noticed one of my lights is off. Power cut the other day, and obviously didn't switch it on, but those things there are acoustic panels, and I've got acoustic panels down this side as well. So I've got 3 of them on this wall, and then I've got some more on the other wall. In fact, I've got one in front of me there that's covering a window. I've got another one on a sliding rail there that is covering another window. And then there are 2 more over the back there. So that's what those things are. And basically, I actually made those. It's a sort of wooden frame, and then there's this acoustic insulation material. It looks almost like rock wool insulation, like you might have in a roof for heat insulation, but it is actually slightly different stuff, but looks similar. And those are panels that are 2 foot by 4 foot, so 60 centimeters by 1.2 meters. And I just made a wooden frame. The stuff goes into the back of them, and then there's material sort of over the top of it, and they're actually hung off the wall by so it's about 2 inches thick, 5 centimeters, and then it's also hung off the wall by that distance as well. And the distance off the wall helps to reduce the reverberation as well. But I did a whole video about this studio build when I built it out, and it was really amazing to me when it was a completely empty room, obviously, with nothing in it, and I did an audio test of just me standing in the room speaking into a microphone, and then I literally just got the acoustic insulation material and propped it up along the walls, and it completely transformed it. So it really does help to do these things. And I've still got I haven't got I should have some sort of rug or something on the floor, but I haven't. It's just tiles. So yeah, those having some sort of acoustic panels can really help with that. I should probably just grab so these ones I made myself. I bought the raw materials basically and just built them. But there was some really good looking and affordable ones that were posted in the Take One Tech network. Let me just see if I can quickly grab those by another one of our members, Vorna, who mentioned them. And I think that I can just grab it. Where would it be? Useful tools in there. By the way, so if you join the Academy, we also have, as well as my Discord server, we also have a dedicated area, dedicated community in the Take One Tech network. And that is, where you can also have conversations, get your questions answered. And that's also where we do our meetups. So our weekly Q&As are done in the meetup section. And you can see all the different things we've got going up. And then this is where you can see replays of them as well. But what I was looking for is there was a link to those acoustic panels, which, as I say, is worth just dropping in there if I've got them. Let me see. If not, I will have to come back and drop them in somewhere else. No, maybe they're not in there. I'll have to put those in the studio gear. But they were, pre-made acoustic panels of various different sizes and colors. I'm not just seeing it. I'll go back. I'll drop it in after the fact. I'll drop it in after we finish, rather. So there we go. Let me see where I'm up to in the chat now. Have I had a chance to look at the Keyboard Maestro additions in the latest version? Do you know what? I'm not sure that I have done anything different actually with my setup. I've been so busy with other things. Sometimes it's easy to go down the the rabbit hole of looking at the new things and then figuring out how can I use those. So let me just have a quick look at if there is. I don't think I've changed anything that I'm doing, in fact. So I can probably say no is the answer. So work faster with macros. Let's have a look what's in the latest version. I can say that, whatever is in there will be in the course, because I'll be, making sure that it's all up to date with the latest stuff. So that is my automation course, which is on the in the queue behind all the other ones. But yeah, it will certainly, if there's anything in there, it will be reflected in that course. But yeah, I'm looking to see what the new additions were. But I can say that I'm not using any of them because I haven't really changed any of my workflows. I'm still just using all of the ones that I used to do. I set up originally, I should say. So there we go. The pedals, going to dust them off and try some hotkeys and shortcuts. That would be a great example actually. So just to frame that, Jesse's got this amazing idea and setup for not just sitting at his desk doing stuff, but doing standing up demos with a kind of virtual light board where, standing in front of a green screen or having things overlaid over the top of it. Certainly doing things like that, being remote from your desk, the pedals is a great solution for that. Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, they'll be great for that. Let me see what I'm up to here. Hey, Wayne. So you bought the Interview Pro and connected to the Duo without a firmware update. Rode knew this was coming. I'm just trying to figure that out. I just bought the Interview Pro and connected it to the Duo without a firmware update. I'm not sure what the context of that is. So I've got the Interview Pro here and connected it to the actually I connected. What did I connect? I connected to the RodeCaster Pro 2. Are you saying that there's an issue with the connection of that, or not? I'm not sure. I can't quite understand the context of that. That's not necessarily you. It's often me. I don't know why, but when I read things when I'm streaming, it's kind of like there's a part of my brain that's shut down or something. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the point about that is. Hey, Caleb, great to see you. Long time no see. I haven't had the motivation to update or even change my setup in ages. So you know what? There's this is a thing that I find when I'm on coaching calls and things like that, where and I've had a few people ask me this. And this comes back to the gas, the gas attack. In case you weren't aware, gear acquisition syndrome, which is why I made this mug, just as a little warning to myself and others that this thing is real. And I should probably say, if you're interested, then I have a whole new range of gas merch available. It's the pinned comment at the top of the chat, and also in the comments, the description down below. But the gas is real. This idea that there's always something else we've got to buy. So when you are setting up a studio, and you can easily get carried away with things. But the question I've had a lot is, when does it end? When is it that you've got all the things that you need? Because the thing that I think, or let me talk about my experience, is you get a camera and then you need something to connect it. So okay, you need to go and buy a capture card, and then you get the capture card, but then you maybe want to add another camera in, so you get another camera and maybe a teleprompter, and then I need to connect these things all to my computer, but now I don't have enough space on my computer, so then I need to get a dock, or I need to get a hub or something like that. So then you get that thing, but then you want to mount the teleprompter, and you realize, I need to get some other bracket or something like that. And it can feel, it certainly did for me, like in the sort of beginning, that there was like all of these extra little things, which weren't necessarily things that I had considered that I needed. But then it's almost like there's all these peripherals and things like that. Or case in point would be, I wanted to put this on a rolling stand. So then I needed to get, I need some extension cables that are going to do the job. I need to find a way to mount it. So I've got a rolling stand, but I need a ball head for the top of it. And then there's all of these different things that come into it. What I will say is, it feels at the beginning, when you're trying to get like what you think of as the perfect setup, that you're continuously spending money on more and more things. But there is definitely a level that I got to where I kind of stood back and just thought, do you know what? I've got absolutely everything that I need now. The only things I'm adding in are, maybe things that are, nice to have, you might consider. There is definitely like a plateau where I think you can consider that, okay, I've got the setup. If what you're wanting to do, and bear in mind that, where I'm coming from with this is not so much, the perfect live streaming or YouTube setup. I'm thinking more about the perfect business setup for running Zoom calls and presentations, online events, webinars, workshops, and those kinds of things, or coaching calls. And to be able to do that effortlessly with ease, to be able to switch between different scenes in Ecamm, to share different portions of your screen when you're on a coaching call or on a workshop or something like that, to bring in your Keynote or PowerPoint presentation and be able to control that all from Stream Deck, to have the teleprompter to be able to maintain eye contact. That is a really great thing to have. So, there is definitely a level where you get to this plateau where you think, okay, I've got actually really kind of the perfect setup now. Anything else is just additional. So I want to just say there is absolutely nothing wrong with not updating or changing your setup. That obviously means that you've got things as they need to be. So that is really how it should be. Really, in an ideal world, we get to a point and then everything's working as it should, and then we're just putting the stuff into use. What we really want, I think, is the ultimate point that you get to is where the tech kind of disappears out of the way. You're not constantly chasing and thinking, oh, I need this or I need that. But actually, you've got what's working and it's working, and then that's it. The tech can just disappear into the background. Obviously, it does always remind you that it's here, though, doesn't it? With little gremlins and tech issues along the way. But that's the idea. So the other thing is, case in point again, I mentioned the difference between the TS3 and the TS4 dock. It's if somebody's got a CalDigit TS3 and then they see the TS4 come out, where you really need the little warning about the gas is not to think that, oh, I need the latest and greatest, so I'm going to get rid of my TS3 and buy the TS4, because ostensibly they're doing exactly the same thing. So it's don't get carried away with the gas. I've taken this to a bit of an extreme level with my mobile. I'll just mention this again. I used to be on the yearly upgrade cycle with phones. So every time a new iPhone came out, I get the new one. It's kind of like I'm seeing how long I can make this last now, but I'm still on my iPhone 6S, and it's almost like I'm seeing how far I can run it into the ground now, because I don't take calls. I don't do stuff on my phone really. But I've taken that to the extreme there, I think, with that one. So let's see. Hey, John, great to see you. I certainly will be at Ecamm Live Creator Camp. In fact, I'm running one of the workshops. So I'm doing a workshop on presenting with Ecamm. That's me and Daniel. So Daniel's one of the moderators in the Ecamm group, and an amazing guy. Really super talented guy as well, with virtual production and all things Ecamm and production as well. So I'll be there this year again, that's in October, and I would put a link up to say grab your places, but I think the places are all sold out actually. But I certainly will be there. So if you're going to be there, it will be great to see you. You're heading back to Malaysia end of July to meet family. I'll be looking out for you. Shout down as you fly over. Let's see where we're up to here. Oh, cool. The solution fixed your Zoom audio issue. No problem. As I say, that is one that is. I made a short about it, like a YouTube short, and posted it on TikTok and whatever. And I think it's like my most popular short because people share it all the time because it solves the problem. But glad I could help with that one. On the topic of this tech software for business, I reckon some of the new additions in Mac OS Sequoia will be great for enhancing Ecamm Zoom presentations, such as Maths Notes and iPhone Mirror. Oh, that Maths Notes! I don't know if any of you saw it. The on the iPad, people have there's been this long running thing on this is not Sequoia actually, but it's the iPad one that I wanted to just mention. People have had this long running thing of, why is there a calculator app on the iPhone, but there isn't a native Apple calculator on the iPad? And they came out with this, the calculator is going to be now on the iPad, but it's got this thing, which I think is this one, which is called Maths Notes, which is where you can go into this mode on the iPad. Probably works on the Mac as well, but with the Apple Pencil, you can just write not just simple equations, but highly complex maths equations. And then as soon as you write the equals sign, then it's going to give you the answer. But the really nice little touch of this is you've written it all in your own handwriting, and it gives you the answer out in your own handwriting as well. I thought that was just a nice little unnecessary, but obviously very Apple touch that they put in. And yeah, doing really complex equations. And then what you can just sort of go and, rub out one of the original components of the equation, put in something else, and it will change it. If you've got something that is like an equation that you could plot, it will give you a graph, and then you can like change the values to see how it's affecting the graph. It's just genius. It's really an amazing thing. So yeah. Hey, Eileen, always a pleasure to see you. Hope you are doing fine. Excellent. I look forward to seeing you there, John. Caleb, yeah, the gear is at a comfortable stage. It's now with the firmware, new features that keep getting added, and having the motivation of seeing how to implement it. Well, that is, I suppose, one point. Once you've got all the tech, it's the software and firmware that continues to move forward, doesn't it? But again, if you've got stuff, I mean, it's like Jesse asked if I'm using any of the new features of Keyboard Maestro 11, and it's like, well, actually, I'm using what I have done because it's been working for me for my productivity. So I don't worry too much if I do slip behind sometimes. I try and keep ahead of the curve, but not always. Never mind, Jesse. Creator Camp. We will. Sure we'll get to meet sometime soon. Maybe 2025. You'll be there. And the iPad OS is for maths notes. Let me just see. I came into this live stream with, because I wasn't sure what questions we get on the stream. I had a whole list of questions to get through, and I only actually got through the first one. So if you've got any other questions, feel free to drop them into the chat. But I will just come back to some of these other ones. We've actually inadvertently covered some of them. So one of them was about the prompter and connecting. I've already answered that, actually, about connecting the prompter directly to the computer. Somebody else had asked that. That is a common question, because I don't know why so many of the creators that are covering it on their YouTube videos have been really sort of adamant that, you need to connect it directly to your computer, because it's not my experience. It's the line that the brands are giving, connect directly to computer, but it's not something I've come across. I did just want to mention, somebody else had asked me about cables and what do I use for all of my other cables. Now, I posted a link earlier in the chat to my to the cables that I'm using for my extension cables, but there is some others that I use for all of my cable stuff. I generally use Ugreen. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this brand, and it was kind of one of these ones that when I started using them, I felt like, I don't know who this is. It's not like a big known brand in my eyes at the time. But actually, I found their stuff to be really great. I just want to go and grab a link to this for you, though, because it has been, all of their stuff has been really great for me. I'll just go and find where I've got my link to this. It's somewhere in here. It might not be this one, but basically, all of my cabling and stuff like that is Ugreen. I did just also just this week I've added in this power. So we've talked about docks and hubs, but we also have lots of peripherals like that we just need to power, like a laptop, iPads, iPhones, other things that are powered off USB. Most of my lights are powered off USB as well, and they do a great range of. This is Ugreen. This is a 200 watt, basically power brick, effectively. But it's I need to do a video about this. Really, it's a GAN charger, and that's hard to explain, but basically it's just power. It's delivering just the power that is needed to different devices. So it's like a 200 or 300 watt, up to 300 watt, but it's just sort of feeding the power that is needed for the devices. But there is a load of great things here. I'll just drop the link to Ugreen in the chat. There we go. And they do a whole range of docks. I haven't tried this one out yet, but they've got like a dock that is kind of like a similar to a CalDigit. I've just not tried it, but they do things like battery packs as well. So with whatever they call it, MagSafe, whatever it is to connect to your iPhone, or I forget the name. There's another term for it. Anyway, but they do these battery banks. This one is a 300 watt desktop power that could power your laptop and all your other things. But they also do great cables as well. So all of my cables generally are Ugreen. That's what I'm using. They've also got another product that's just come out, which I haven't been able to get my hands on, but I will be getting one, which is this. It's a NAS. Now, lots of people talk about Synology, who make network-attached storage. This is where you've got multiple drives in it. And I know lots of people have got the Synology NAS. However, I know lots of people who have had like little niggly problems with them, not doing quite what it should do, or the setup maybe being a little bit complex. From what I've seen so far about the Ugreen NAS, they've done a really good job of just starting afresh with it. They've got a really great app that goes with it, making it easy for you to share things and give people access to your device. One thing I've found with the Synology is it almost seems to me, having not used one, but just seen other people's experiences of it, it almost seems to me that they've got like this sort of legacy complexity that is just sort of carried forward into the current products that they've got with Synology. Whereas this, by all accounts, looks like a great product. They did it as a Kickstarter, which is an interesting thing. I guess Kickstarter is actually not just for small little startups, but massive multinationals who just want to build the excitement and interest in the product, and it's a great way to get that sort of early feedback and whatever. So it was run as a Kickstarter. The Kickstarter is now finished and it's now a product, but it's still sort of limited availability. I don't think it's not available here in Thailand. I think it is in I forget where it's been launched, but anyway, it's something that I will get and try out, so I'll let you know how that goes. But in general though, Ugreen, I really like all of their products. I actually in Thailand we don't have Amazon. Although I was just telling someone about this the other day, Amazon.com, if you live in Thailand or Southeast Asia, where they don't have a sort of Amazon for that particular country, what you might be interested to know is that if you go to Amazon.com, check out that free shipping to Thailand on orders over $35. On qualifying orders, it's most things. It's not everything, but most things. So yeah, you can actually get free shipping from the US to Thailand. But anyway, I digress. We have something called Lazada here, which is kind of like the Southeast Asian Amazon equivalent. It's actually owned by what are they called? Alibaba, I think, is the sort of parent company, owned by Jack Ma. He's the CEO, I guess. So that is the online e-commerce platform we have here. All of this is to say they always run these ridiculous savings on like the 6th of the 6th month. And so they did that this month. And I've, for the longest time, been using this folding keyboard, which is actually one of the things that is the hottest seller out of all of my Amazon links. It's the best folding keyboard I've ever used, and I use it all the time. And for ages, I was using it just as my portable keyboard. But then when my Apple keyboard packed up a few months ago, I started using this as my regular keyboard on my Mac, and it's perfectly fine for that. However, I sometimes used to then forget to take it out with me. So I did actually just the other day buy a Ugreen keyboard, and I liked it because it's got a regular keyboard here, but it's still got the number pad, but it's not quite as big as the ones where you get the number pad off to the side and then the little keys on it. So I thought I'd give it a go. It's an all aluminium construction, a really solid keyboard, so I'm perfectly happy with it as well. But I'm just mentioning this to say that Ugreen are a really great company that make lots of solid products. The other company then to mention is also Ulanzi. So this is one that's kind of like I don't talk about too much on the channel, but actually I'm using a load of their stuff. So I'll just drop this in here. If you want to go and check out the Ulanzi's site, there's lots of stuff that I'm using that is kind of like in the background. So I mentioned about, mounting my prompter, needing a ball head, needing a tripod, needing, all of these other different things. Ulanzi is great for that. My ZV-1 and ZV-E10 are both in Ulanzi camera cages, for example. So they make lots of great products and little connectors and things like that as well. But they also do some really interesting. I've got a Ulanzi bag somewhere as well. I've actually ordered these lights here, so I'll do a test of those. These aren't sent by Ulanzi. I've just actually bought them. But I'll do a test of those. And I also did get a Ulanzi flat panel. I can show you this. I've not even set it up yet, so I'll do a proper video about this. But this is, whoops-a-daisy, I just switched off my computer. Put the display to sleep. There we go. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. I'm back. But this is a Ulanzi flat panel. And I got this because I've got a lot of people who are talking about their setups, and they've got maybe a small workspace and they're looking for some sort of flat panel light fitting. And the kind of obvious go-to is Elgato, because Elgato make, you know, their key lights and so on. But they're actually really quite pricey for what they are. And there's lots of manufacturers that are making lights. Now, these ones here were, I want to say they were like $70. It is, as you can see, it's it's about this size, about the size of my head, and it's a flat panel. But it comes with the mount. The mount is like a real big chunk of metal. So that is the mount that goes on the desk, and then it comes with this, which is the sort of post that it connects onto. And this is obviously extendable, so it's just like a telescoping thing, pretty long telescope. And then you just plug the put the light into that, and then it comes with a little remote here. What I like about the remote is the remote comes with a little sticky back metal panel. It's still got the film on here. But then this is magnetic, so you can either just stick that to the side of your desk or something like that and have the remote stick to it, or you can obviously, if you've just got metal, you can stick it to that. But then it is a it's not a color version, so it's not RGB, but it does have, you know, warm to daylight. So yeah, I only mentioned that. I'll do a proper video about this in due course. But yeah, at something like $70, I want to say, for a panel light, if you compare that to the you know, the 250 or whatever that you get with Elgato, these seem pretty cost effective, and I've not set it up. I've put it back in the box, but I have done a test of it, and the you know, the quality of the light looks great there. I should probably just switch this on if I've got a USB-C socket somewhere around, which I have. If I just plug this into here, let's see. So that is the warm light. If I get the thing out here, turn the power back on, and then yeah, you can change. Need to change the channel. Let me put that on. So it's got a little remote there with a little display on it, and then that display, you can change the color temperature. So now we're at 2450, and the brightness we are at. Try and turn this on. There we go. So this is at 40%, 50%, 100%. 100, so obviously but too much light there, and then we can change the color from warm, and then change that all the way up to so let's just see what that went to in Kelvin. So that's down at 2500 Kelvin, and then if we take that all the way up, 4600, 5600, 7000 to 9000. So yeah, that's way too much daylight for me. I would tend to be on more like 5,400. That's pretty much matching my things, and I can turn that down a bit. So more like, let's see what would be reasonable. I guess more like 50%. So if I turn my other lights off and just turn this up a little bit, then obviously I've only got one of them on now, so I'd really have like one on either side. Make that a little bit brighter. So yeah, if I had two of those as a really sort of lightweight panel, these look great so far. But as I say, I'll do a full review. All of that is just to say, Ulanzi make a great make great products too. All sorts of different types of products. Let's see where we're up to. I'm a little nervous asking. I'm still fighting with background noise on my NT1 mic through RodeCaster Pro. Is there anything else I should consider? Still fighting with background noise. If you mean noise in the background, like outside of you know, just noise that's going on that you want to try to control, then I would recommend the noise gate is going to be the thing. It depends on how much background noise you've got. If you've got, like, let's say you've got, construction going on next to your home, and there's really loud noises all the time, then you're going to want something that's literally removing all of that noise from your voice. In which case, you could consider going through something like there's a program called Crisp, which does a really great job at literally isolating your voice. I think it's crisp.ai. This may not be what you're talking about. I'll come on to the other more RodeCaster-centric things, but it's worth just mentioning this. If you're in a really, like, literally a noisy environment, and even, you know, outside, not that you would be with your RodeCaster necessarily, Crisp is a great solution. And what that does is it says it's AI-powered assistant for meetings and calls. But basically what happens is it runs on your computer. You select your microphone input to that. So select your RodeCaster going into that, and then it will remove all background noise from your voice. And then you select, like, the Crisp microphone as your microphone. So if you're doing something where you've got to, you know, remove a load of background noise, then that would be what to use, because the RodeCaster itself can't remove background noise. What it can do, though, is you can use what's called the noise gate. And the noise gate works that when you speak, the gate opens and lets audio through. And when you don't speak, when it doesn't detect noise on your microphone or doesn't detect volume on your microphone, then the noise gate closes. The thing about this is there are a few different settings to look at. Now, let's just get up Rode Central, and I can show you how this looks. Where's it gone? Here it is. We just open the app. Let me just get into the settings for a second. I'll just bring it up somewhere. Where's this gone now? Just trying to find it. Now, can I not change the advanced audio settings in here? I could. Oh, yes, there we go. Okay, right. I'm ready. In Rode Central, I would normally do this on the device itself, but I'll do it here because it's easier to show you. If you go into the audio setup, and then, like, here is my mic 1, click on the settings, or, you know, do it on the device itself. And here, if you go into the advanced audio settings, you've got this one, which is the high pass filter. The high pass filter is intended to allow higher frequency sounds to come through and knock out any lower frequency sounds, essentially. And you can have it so that if you've got any sort of machinery noise in your room, by which I mean fan noise and things like that, often those are at, like, quite a low frequency, like low frequency hums. You can get rid of that using the high pass filter. And so what this chart is showing you is along the bottom line here is along the bottom axis, I should say, is frequency. And then this center line is basically nothing's being changed with it. And then anything below that line is saying that the RodeCaster is basically reducing those particular frequencies, and then anything above it is increasing those frequencies. So if we go into here, the frequency, and I move this all the way up here, you can hear how that's basically knocked out a load of those lower frequencies. In fact, far too much, because you don't want it to affect your voice, but we just want to knock out those lower frequencies below your voice. So if you take that back down more so it's below your natural, any frequencies that are in the vocal range, but it's still then knocking down stuff that is potentially beneath that. And then you can use the slope to affect how much of that is being sort of removed. So if you have got low frequency noises in the background, hums and things, then the high pass filter is great for just removing those continuously. But the next thing then, if I come out of here, the de-esser is for removing the S sounds in your voice to a point, not completely, but to a point. But there is this one here, the noise gate. And this one, it's actually better if I see this on the RodeCaster itself, because you see the little chart going up and down. What the noise gate is doing, though, is it's these controls here are all relating to when the noise gate opens and when it shuts, how quickly the noise gate, literally imagine it like a door. Like, imagine you're on one side of the door, and when you speak, the door opens and your voice goes through. So the threshold is the volume at which the RodeCaster says, okay, there they are, they're speaking, let's open the door. So that's the threshold. And so moving this threshold is going to change the point at which the door sort of metaphorically opens, or the gate actually opens. The attack is how quickly the door swings open. And I could say, probably just leave these at the default setting. But the attack is basically how quickly, once it says, okay, he's speaking at the door, let's open the gate. The attack is how quickly it opens. Then there's going to be a point at which you stop speaking and the gate needs to shut again. So there's two things related to that. There are the hold and the release. So the hold is literally holding the gate open. So imagine like somebody's literally holding it and saying, have you really finished speaking? I know you're not actually speaking, but have you really finished or not? So that is the hold, how long to keep it open for. And then the release is how quickly does the gate shut again. So that's what those two are for. As I say, I could probably recommend leaving those three there pretty much at their default. The threshold you're definitely going to want to adjust. That's like the volume that you speak at which the gate opens. If you've got that too low, then it will be picking up all sorts of other sounds that you don't want to come through. If you've got it too high, then it's not going to pick up your voice necessarily when you start speaking, or at least there might be a moment where it doesn't immediately come in and you get the beginning of your words sort of clipped off almost. The next one then is the range, and this is how much do you want the door to close. Now, this is the one that I think could be worth just checking, because I've actually got a load of, well, not a load, I've got aircon noise, air conditioning. So if I turn my noise gate off, I'll just turn my mic up a bit. I don't know if that's coming through, but there's basically a sound going on because I've got my aircon. So what I've got this set to is that when I have my noise gate on and I stop speaking, it goes completely quiet. The range, though, the default is going to be that this is not actually all the way down. And so if this is down at 100, that's all the way closed. Whereas if it's up at 0, that's not closed at all. Effectively, that means it's off. The noise gate is off. But the default is going to be somewhere around about here, I think. And so what that means is the gate is closing, but it's not closing all the way. The door is just closing a little bit. So basically audio is still coming through. Now, personally for me, I prefer to have it that when I speak, the gate's completely open, and when I stop, the gate is completely shut. And that's because a lot of the time I'm using this is on things like Zoom calls and things like that, where I want to have it that, yeah, if I don't speak, I don't want to be on mute necessarily, but if I'm not speaking, it's just completely silent. And so that's why I like to have that all the way down to 0. But yeah, the default is going to be somewhere about this. And so that is why some people say, well, you know, I'm still hearing background noise and I don't want the noise to be going through. There is another point of this, though, which is when you actually change this to be, okay, I want it to be shut all the time. As the person who is speaking, you are hypersensitive to what you're hearing. If you're monitoring it in your ears, you're going to be trying to sort of listen and hear, like, what's the audio sounding like? Am I hearing anything from that background noise and so on? Now, I can tell you that if I really actually concentrate on my audio, and by the way, I know there'll be people who will comment and say the audio is off anyway. There's these issues or that issue with audio. I totally get that. But if I actually listen to my audio, I know that I can hear that humming in the background all the time that I'm speaking. I also know that every time I start to speak, there is this little split second where I hear that hiss in the background go and come into my ears, like as I start to speak, and then it's there all the time. And when I stop speaking, there is a moment where that hiss is still there present in the background before the noise gate closes. And that's because we've got this, it's technically, it's holding the gate open. After I stop talking, there is a moment where all of the audio from the room is getting through, and then the door closes, the gate closes, and then it just sort of tails off. I can certainly hear that. The point is, most people are not going to be able to hear that in your audio. So we are hypercritical of our own stuff because we're analyzing it and trying to figure out what's the best setup. But the fact is, before I mentioned it, probably the majority of people watching hadn't noticed that there's aircon noise going on in the background. But it's still there right now. Every time I speak, there is this background noise, which is the aircon. And if you actually listen and maybe had headphones in and were listening to the thing, you would be able to hear it. But it's kind of, most people are not going to notice it. So all of that, I don't know if that has gone any way towards answering your question about the the background noise, and if that is even what you were talking about. So do let me know if that has gone any way towards answering it. But if it's just removing subtle background noise, I would recommend the noise gate, because that's going to mean that when you don't speak, you don't hear it. There is no way to kind of remove any sound specifically from the RodeCaster, but crisp AI. It's almost like they could add something like this into the RodeCaster as a feature, because the RodeCaster technically has got a lot of onboard processing power. So they could probably add in some sort of, I'm just guessing here, they could probably have the power to add in something like an AI, background noise removal feature into the RodeCaster. I guess the reason why it isn't there is because that's from an audio purist point of view, that's not it's not simulating one of these things like the compressor, the noise gate, and so on, which are very specific. This is basically replicating a hardware, an audio hardware device, effectively. So yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that has helped at all. Let me know if it has or hasn't, or if that has just given you more cause for for questions. Let me see. In fact, as I go down. Yeah, so if you've got a fan going, then the noise gate would certainly, the noise gate and the high pass filter would help reduce that, because the fans, well, I suppose fans could be at a high pitch depending on the type of fan, but often you get like associated noise with vibration coming through. Like my desk used to, I've mounted everything off my desk now, but I used to have stuff directly on the desk, and sometimes you'd get that like low hum of vibrations on the desk. But yeah, I think the noise gate should be the one that would help with that. Craig saying, why do I plug my RodeCaster Pro 2 in twice to an Element hub? So the RodeCaster Pro 2 has got 2 USB cables, and on the first USB cable, you've got 2 USB channels. You've got RodeCaster Pro 2 main stereo and RodeCaster Pro 2 chat. I don't know why they called them that. They should have just called them RodeCaster Pro 2 1 and 2 and 3 and so on, because it doesn't necessarily need to be for anything to do with chat, and I think it gives, but anyway, that's a digression. So on the first cable though, you've got RodeCaster Pro 2 main stereo, RodeCaster Pro 2 chat. On the second cable, you have RodeCaster Pro 2 secondary, so that is a third USB channel. So what I use that for on my RodeCaster is I use the RodeCaster Pro 2 main stereo for my system audio, and also for my Ecamm Live, which is the live production software that I use on my Mac. I use my chat channel for Discord. So at the moment right now, I'm streaming to YouTube, but I'm also going into Discord as well. And then on my third channel, I have that set for things like Zoom or Teams or whatever communication and platform I'm using. What I've also done though in the past is we've got Ecamm for Zoom now, so I can route Zoom through Ecamm technically. Potentially, but you can also have Zoom ISO or another instance of Zoom running, where you have speakers come into Zoom ISO or into now would be Ecamm for Zoom, but this is what I've used it for before, and you want to route that audio into the Zoom meeting, which is on another channel. So basically having the 2 cables from the RodeCaster plugged into a single computer gives you 3 USB channels that you can use for whatever sort of complex audio routing that you want to do. You can also plug one cable into one computer and one cable into another and have audio passing between the cables, but that's why I've got them both plugged into the same computer through the Element hub, is because I want to have all 3 of those USB channels addressable on my computer to be able to route things that way. Oh, you're waiting. Let me know how you get on with the Ugreen NAS. Yeah, I've got so many Ugreen things. It's kind of like pretty much all the cables. I have also got the Ugreen card reader. It's not a card reader actually. It is. I've got it here. I've got a Ugreen thing for my iPad that basically it's a USB-C that plugs into my iPad mini, and then it gives me HDMI out. It gives me 3 USB sockets and power going in and audio. I've got another USB sort of dongle type thing into the back of my computer from Ugreen as well. So yeah, they really build solid stuff. It all feels really well made as well. Like the braided cables, all the connectors. Oh, that's the other thing that I use from Ugreen. All of the little adapter cables. So here you go. I don't know if Rich is watching. Here you go, Rich. Check out this. Who's that guy? This is my cables and connector boxes. These are all the stickers from Creator Camp last year, and then there's this dude right here. But in here, so talking about Ulanzi Claw. So these are the little connectors. Then there is these guys. Well, where are they? I've got some other ones, some little heads. But all of these things, all of my little adapters, so USB-C to USB-A, for example, these are all Ugreen. I've got one here that is USB-C to micro USB as well. So all of these little adapters are Ugreen too, so they make great things. And yeah, if you need any branded merch, check out this dude here. Let's come back here. So yeah, Ugreen is great. Oh yeah, Keeley is a Crisp user. Funny thing about that is when we record our Creators Pod podcast, we did this thing where we would sort of clap at the beginning to sort of sync all the audio up between the 5 or 6 of us, however many were on at the time. And yeah, Keeley had to turn her Crisp off because Crisp would literally, you could clap in front of the microphone and Crisp would remove the clap over the voice. It's pretty amazing, actually, the Crisp stuff is. Thanks, Discord. Does Discord have DRM? I don't know quite what you mean by that in terms of what's DRM in that context. I know DRM as in digital rights management. What's DRM? I don't actually know what that acronym is. You'll have to give me some extra context to that in case I'm missing something. Yeah, not sure what what that is. Look at this. I should have just read forward. I see. You're concerned about rebroadcasting the Discord sharing with Zoom. Well, the thing about the Discord is you are it's your own server. So anything that's going on in the server, I mean, like I've got my voice channel going at the moment. So whatever's going on in there is like a closed space. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. And in fact, coming back to the RodeCaster, and the reason why I have these 3 channels set up is what the RodeCaster allows me to do, and why I've got 3 separate channels on USB, just to come back to this point, is that I can hear the Discord in my ear, for example, although they're not particularly rowdy. It's just, just Jeff at the moment. But I can hear the Discord in my ear, but it's not coming through into the stream. So I have full control over like what audio is being routed where. So, but yeah, I'm not sure about what the meaning is that in terms of rebroadcasting the Discord, sharing with Zoom. So yeah, if you've got stuff coming in from Discord and it was going into Zoom, then yeah, it would just be a case of yeah, making sure that folks knew like what was going where, I guess. Let's see. Hello, Jason. Glad to see you here. Thanks for stopping by and happy that you're finding it useful. Hello, Jeremy. Great to see you too. Indeed. And Keely's having the same question. Not sure why you would want to share the Discord voice channel into Zoom, as you'd have the Zoom sharing limitations. So no need for Unify then. Let me just see. I've kind of, which one was that? So right, yeah. Unify is Rode's virtual mixer. So Unify runs on your computer, and it can do virtual mixing. There is still a use case for that, whereby at the moment I've got my, like, let's say Zoom coming in onto one channel, I've got Discord coming into the other, and then I mentioned I've got my system audio coming onto the other. Well, you could actually have Unify running as well. I don't do this. I want to make a video about how you could do it, because it is actually a really great feature where if you've got like multiple different things on your computer that you want to mix the audio and have them coming in at different levels, then you could then use Unify as a way to bring in multiple different apps into the RodeCaster on a single channel, but still have control over the audio levels. But then it would still just come in on the same channel. So I personally don't use Unify for that. I've used Unify with my Streamer X, which is not part of my sort of main daily setup. And it's great for more control of different channels on that. But certainly if you've got the RodeCaster, you could technically use Unify in conjunction with it. Let me just find, there's another great guy, the Podmeister. Let me find his YouTube channel because he did a great video about this. Let's see where this is. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. There's this guy. There's that my first look at Unify, but there is also another really great one. Let me find his. I will get to it because it's definitely worth watching. It's worth me finding this for you. But yeah, so I'm not using Unify. Oh, Podcast Meister, that's what it is. That's why it's not Podmeister. Podcast. Yeah, here we go. This is what I'm looking for. So first of all, I'll just drop a link into his general channel in here. Like that. And then it's this one here. This one, Genius. Rode's smartest software move ever. Unify plus RodeCaster series. Let me just grab that video. And definitely take a look at this. All of his stuff's great. He does really great in-depth explainer videos as well. You know, my stuff's all one take. That's the name of the channel, Take One Tech. So I do it all in one take. But he's got some really great ones. He did a great one about mix minus as well. Let me just drop that in. A great explainer with great graphics all done in there as well. There we go. Drop that in there. Let's have a look. So let's come back to this then. Gordon, more context on this thing. I want to share a proprietary screen information using Discord that can't be rebroadcast, like Apple TV movies have DRM. Proprietary screen information. You know what? I'm still missing something here. You want to share proprietary screen information using Discord that can't be rebroadcast. So screen information, as in somebody sharing their screen into Discord. Is that what we're talking about here? And you're an Apple developer working on AI. Interesting. That is interesting. I still can't quite get my head around whether it is if you're sharing stuff that is like a screen share into there or what. I'm kind of not too sure that still not too sure. It might be me. It might be just a bit too screen sharing into Discord. So if you're screen sharing, so if you're screen sharing into Discord and you're wanting to share that into Zoom, then I guess there are. I mean, there's certainly tools that you could technically use to do that. I mean, I use Ecamm Live for my live production of what I'm doing now. Technically, I could have Ecamm Live and set up a screen share in Ecamm Live that was sharing the Discord, and that could then be using Ecamm for Zoom. That could be played into the Zoom. So I could totally do that, and I could do the audio routing as well. It's not a tool as such, as in it's not like an add-on into Discord that would do that. It is literally just me kind of scraping the screen really. I mean, I did used to do something similar where I would do like a workshop, and I did it in Discord for a while, and then I was if somebody wanted to ask a question, I would capture them as a screen grab live and then bring it into Ecamm that way. So that technically would work. Yeah, the only thing about that is, of course, you would need to, and I'll just drop my link in for Ecamm in case you're interested. And there is also a discount code as well, Take One Tech. You'll find it on that page. That's my page on the Ecamm site, ecamm.com/takeonetech, and then you'll find that there is also an offer code that it mentions there on that page. Get 15% off your first payment with promo code TakeOneTech. But that is basically, I could set up a screen with screen sharing, share the Discord, and then Ecamm now has Zoom built into it. So you have Ecamm for Zoom, then that would feed in kind of like a virtual camera feeding into Zoom. That would totally do that. But that then you would need to ask the permission of the people, obviously, that were sharing the screen. And so now if you're saying, let's see, I want to share my screen with you, but I don't want you to have the ability to broadcast my screen. There isn't a way to then. So I get it. You're saying you want to enable the DRM thing yourself as somebody sharing the screen. There is always a way to share this. There is always a way that somebody could scrape it. Basically, is the answer. In the way that I've just said, I could totally on any call technically be, I could be in a Google Meet and I could set up a scene in Ecamm to capture the screen. I could capture the audio. There is never going to be a way that you can stop somebody from doing that if at all. Because they can always capture their screen. If they're seeing it on their screen, they can capture it. So that seemed like, sorry, it took me so long to get to the nub of what you were saying there. I guess, so the question was, if I share my screen in Discord, can I prevent somebody from resharing that or copying that? I think is the ultimate thing here. And yeah, anything that you're sharing with somebody that they can see on their screen, technically they can be capturing and recording it. I mean, even in a Zoom call, if you want to record a Zoom call, you have to click the record button and everyone knows it's being recorded. But there are other ways of recording where that wouldn't happen. I mean, even using Ecamm's, even using Mac's built-in screen sharing, Command-Shift-5 and then set it to record video, it would record the whole screen and can capture audio as well. So I think there is no way to technically avoid the potential for people to be able to do that. Is the very long way that we got to the answer there. I sometimes feel my brain's really, really slow, especially all the more so on live streams. There we go. Hello there, Blossom. Question: using new digital piano and dynamic mic to RodeCaster and video on OBS when I live stream. Every time you speak or play piano, there's crackling sound. Anytime you're getting some sort of crackling sound, the first thing I would check would be just check the cables. That's often a cause of that. And also check the cable routing as well. If you've got... often it's convenient when you've got potentially multiple cables. You've got your power USB going into your computer from the RodeCaster. Maybe you've got your headphone cables. Then you've got XLR from your mic. Maybe another cable with a jack going from your computer, from your piano. So we bring them all out the back of the RodeCaster, and the temptation is just to sort of bundle them all together and route them and keep them all nice and neat somewhere. But they're all together. I had somebody on a coaching call recently where they had some sort of crackling sound from them, and we basically... I suggested to take the XLR cable from the mic and separate it from all the others, and that did actually solve the problem. So it could be that there is either a cable routing, that it's going too close to the other cables, other power cables or things like that, or it could well be that there is a sort of loose connection in the cable itself. And you're saying everything was working well when I live stream on my old digital piano, same setup. So, if you're, I mean, it could well be, because funnily enough, the chap I'm talking about, he had everything working well, and then he changed one thing that he got this sound but that wasn't the source of it. It was because he'd rerouted his cables. So the cable thing is definitely something to check. I don't know why you would get a crackling on your microphone when you've got your piano plugged in. If you weren't getting it before, it does sound like it could be something to do with the cabling potentially, rather than something internally in the RodeCaster causing it. I would also check if any of the settings have changed on your RodeCaster, because obviously you've got the mic settings, and then you've also got the setting for the hang on 1 minute. There we go. I just went to look at the setting, and I inadvertently changed my mic input to something completely different. But yeah, you've got the where on the RodeCaster you can select whether it's a microphone or whether it's a a 1/4-inch jack or whatever coming in. I don't know if any of that could have changed, but my sense is that it might be a cabling thing. If every time you speak there is a crackling sound, it sounds to me something that could be to do with cabling. If it was working fine before and it's not now, that would be what I would probably think to check. I'll have to think about what else it could be. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, when everything seems to work fine and then just one more thing gets added in and then seemingly everything's broken, and yet you've only changed one thing. My guess is cabling is what I would guess on that one. It also depends on the exact sound you're getting, like what is the crackling sound that you're getting. But certainly there's nothing in the RodeCaster that should, thinking out aloud here, be that like when you plug things into one of them, it's going to cause something to distort or whatever on another channel. That they're separate in that respect. I feel like I've not really totally helped there, but I would definitely check the the cables. See. I noticed loopback causes audio delay with Ecamm. Technically, anything that you're doing audio routing on could potentially introduce some delay into the system. There is in Ecamm, there is an audio delay feature, which is, if I just come over to here, move this second. I'll just put, so in Ecamm, let me get my Ecamm preferences over. I'm sharing my whole screen here. You may well know about this. There is an audio in the audio section of the Ecamm Live preferences. There is a mic delay here, and that is a delay of your mic relevant. Hang on a minute, I'm not sharing, am I? Or am I? I think I am actually. There is a mic delay here that is your mic relative to your camera. So usually it's the opposite way around. It's the like if you've got your camera going in via a cam link, then that will be introducing a delay to the video versus the microphone. And so you add in a delay to the mic to match the video. So I'm not sure how you bring in your video in, but it could be that there's room to sort of compensate that if loopback is causing a slight audio delay, then maybe this could be reduced to sort of offset that compensation. But it might be that you've got nowhere to move in that respect. If that's the case, if your audio, you've not got any current mic delay set in Ecamm, but you're still just noticing that loopback is giving that bit of a delay, there's not a huge amount really that can be done about that, because they don't have something the other way, which is kind of like a video delay. It's either the audio is delayed or it's not delayed in that setting that I've just shown you. So that one is a bit more tricky. So I don't know how much of a delay you're getting in there, or if it's unworkable. But yeah, they don't have one that is like a video delay, if you see what I mean, because that seems to be what the issue is with that. Yeah, so I don't have a sort of fix for that necessarily, apart from in post, but that's then something that you're doing in post production, isn't it? So it depends on how big of a delay is. I've got to say I never really noticed a particular delay when I was using loopback, so I don't know how severe that you're finding it, and whether it could be something else that's actually causing it, because yeah, it is. Yeah, it could be. I wonder if it could be from some other thing in particular, rather than just loopback itself. If it's really extreme and noticeable. Somebody else, let's see, Kadu, am I saying that correct? I second the cables. So this was with the audio issue with the RodeCaster and the piano. I second the cables. In my experience, it's the connector not connecting well internally on the device, or unexpected damage on the cable that occur over time. Yeah, that's, and the other thing is, like, when you change settings, when you change like devices or whatever, then yeah, you can have things where the cable's fine, but then you take stuff out and put it all back together again, and then there's an issue with it. So you know, because the cable's just got slightly damaged or whatever. And so we've got new piano has no fixed volume or line in. No fixed line in. That shouldn't really matter if you've got the new piano and it's got, you know, a cable that's coming out and then going back into the RodeCaster. If the cable is fine, even if it's not a fixed line in thing, it's still a 1/4 inch jack. And then if you can change the gain on the piano, it should it should still work ostensibly the same. But do make sure that you've got it set as a line in, rather than anything else. So on the RodeCaster, there is an option for line in. So do make sure you got it set as that, rather than like a mic or something like that. So yeah, on the setting for that channel, just make sure it's set to line in. You're welcome. I hope that helps. I feel like I didn't quite answer it, but let's see. We'll see how it goes. Let me know if you get any issues, or if it doesn't fix the issue. Well, with that said, it's been almost a 2-hour live stream. In fact, it is just coming up for 2-hour live stream. So if you've got any further questions, do feel free to drop them in the chat. But if not, then I'll say, if you do need any help with these things, then I do offer consultations. You can book a call at takeonetech.io/consultation. Funnily enough, the majority of the calls that I have, despite the fact that I cover all kinds of things on my channel, they're pretty much always about audio. The audio is the thing that is a little bit more abstract and seems to catch people out. So if you do need any one-to-one help, you can find that there. But also another great place, of course, is the Discord. So you can go to takeonetech.io/family and join the Discord there. There's a little intro that shows you how to find your way around Discord as well. But the benefit of that is, first of all, I get to see the comments, and so does everybody else. And then we get the benefit. Oh, sorry. Just 1 second. I've missed your question. Let me see. Did I? I beg your pardon. Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry. I did indeed. I got lost in a load of links that I posted. So sorry about that. I just bought the thanks for the reminder. I just bought the RodeCaster Pro 2, used to round out my live streaming setup. What video of yours would you recommend that I watch to understand how to mix minus for live streaming? Great question. I will find them for you. Let's see. So I've got one specifically about RodeCaster audio routing. We've got quite a lot here. I'm just trying to think which the best one. I will find it. I need to do an update of these. I've just noticed that some of these are a little bit out of they're a little bit older, but the audio routing ones certainly still are there. Let's see, what was it? Audio processing and audio routing, I guess, are the two. Audio routing 101. So this would be the first one. This was called Audio Routing 101. So that's that one. And then there's another one called audio processing. This is all about the dynamic audio processing. Oh, we've got another one about advanced audio settings. Now I cover this from the point of view of there's RodeCaster Pro 2, the Rode Streamer X, and the RodeCaster Duo. There we go. So those two basically give you a good overview of the advanced audio processing and then also the audio routing. So those would be those would be a great place. So sorry, I nearly missed your question there. It got just drowned out with all of my my questions, my links that I posted. Completely missed it. Anyway, there we go. So that would be. Have you measured latency on Discord when sharing 4K? I have not. No. Is the answer. maybe Keely has done. I haven't done that. I'm a slacker regularly, as well you know, Rich. How dare you suggest it's only sometimes? Okie dokie. Well, I hope that has been useful, and I hope I didn't miss any other questions as I was going through that. Hope you found that useful. But yeah, if you do have any others, Discord is definitely the best place to do it. I am trying to keep on top of my YouTube comments. I had a bit of a, shall we call it a YouTube comment amnesty with just far too many backlog, but I'm trying to keep on top of the new ones because it's a fire hose sometimes. So, but thank you so much for joining. Hope you found that useful. And I will leave a link to some of my other studio-related videos over on the right-hand side. Once again, thanks to all of my wonderful channel members and, of course, all of the Academy members too. Thanks again. Have a great day, and I will see you again soon.